What's going on, mister?
Hey,
How you been?
how's it, how's it going? Oh, wait.
What's going on, mister?
Hey,
How you been?
it wouldn't be a beginning of a mountain stream without Jake having technical difficulties, not muting his microphone. Situation normal, all messed up, Adam.
No, I hear you. I'm having some technical difficulties on my end too. I don't know if it's the
Jitters.
computer or if it's the the sound system I'm using right now. I've never had this problem before, but there's some lag in the audio. There's some clipping going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people in the show can hear it or not. I hope they can't though, Jake. That's one thing I can tell you right now. I can only hope because at this point we're live,
We
Jake.
are live, and we've got some people in the chat hanging out too.
Really?
You want to say hi to the folks?
Who's out there in the chat room? I haven't been able to
Well,
check
I
that out.
saw Mr. Mike Kirkpatrick, Brian McSturdy, Mogi on Monsters in the house. Also, Lindsay
Awesome.
Bay, the Scottish Wildman, KGS Insano. Miss
Ooh,
Lang from up north is in the house.
excellent.
LM, Tomas Hammond.
Tom Hammond.
Good to
Oh,
see you.
cool.
We love you, brother. Jeez Louise. I mean, I was getting the jitters. I always get anxious before a live show, but,
Sometimes it happens,
especially
right?
tonight. Especially
Yeah.
tonight.
Because of the special guest we have, or was it something to do with the day you've
Yeah.
had, or the week you've had, or
Just no, the day aside, just the guest that we're having on tonight.
pretty high profile guest? I have to say that.
Really excited. I'm afraid that it's definitely a step up for us, Adam. Come on.
It really is, and I'm glad to have someone like Todd coming on our show. It's a privilege for me and you, and we're lucky to have him. It's pretty exciting. Jake, I just wanted to start things off here. How was your day today in general? What did you do at the homestead? What was it like for you today at the house?
Well, today on lockdown, I sat home and speed dialed the unenjoyment line 500 times in a row for about 6 hours and 43 minutes. Took
Yeah.
me to do 500 on the two lines, but I tried to keep a happy face and smile.
Yeah, I know that. I know that game. I've been doing the same thing. I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, and I'm still not. I still haven't figured it. I haven't gotten through.
I'm sure they'll figure it out soon.
I heard that things are going to be working in our favor eventually.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and interesting weather today. It got breezy today. It got some raining going on and some wind. Cold, a little chilly. I was out in
spitting
Thrains today,
snow,
Jake. Yeah, I went out to
spitting
Thrains
snow.
today and did a little shop, some workshop stuff. You want to talk some more about our special guest? I think it's about time we
I
start
mean, we
talking.
probably should. We're not here to talk about the weather, even though, uh,
Jake,
like I said,
do you know anything about this guy?
I think I have heard a few things about this guy. How about you? Have you heard anything around the campfires?
All I've heard is that Todd Waldron is founder and host of the East to West hunting podcast.
Oh, wow. I heard he lives in the Adirondack Mountains of northern New York, where he enjoys big woods deer hunting, trout fishing, and spending time with his family outdoors.
I heard that mentorship and conservation are important to Todd because America's treasured wild places, wildlife, and future generations can't speak for themselves, Jake.
No, hunting and fishing are a wonderful privilege, Adam. And with this privilege comes an ongoing responsibility of stewardship, a responsibility to pass it on to the next generation.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it much better myself, Jake. As you were just reading through there, it was like going right through my mind, almost the exact same words. And that made me
Yeah,
think that Todd is a hunt to eat ambassador and a life member of a backcountry hunters and anglers.
really. Uh, I heard that he was a member of the National Wild Turkey Federation and a sustaining member of the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership 23 year member of the Society of American Foresters. I mean,
that's
right out of
a
high
lot
school.
going out there. I also heard, this is through the grapevine, but I don't know if this is true. Maybe we'll ask him personally. But I also heard that he is a forestry consultant by profession and has a BA in natural resource management from SUNY ESF and an AAS in forest technology from SUNY ESF's New York State Ranger School. Those are some accolades there. That's why we were both a little nervous right here. Do you think any of this stuff's true that we heard?
I mean, my grandmother said, "Believe half what you see and none of what you read." But I mean, I don't know. I gotta tend to believe this stuff. I mean, it was on the pewter webs.
I think we should have him on, guys. Without any further delay, and I'm sorry it's taken us so long to get our guest on, but let's just have him on, guys. Welcome, Mr. Todd Waldron. Thank you for coming on, Todd. Thank you for coming on the show.
Fellas, it's great to be on the show. Like, you know, I'm listening to all this and I'm wondering, do you have the right dude? Am I the right one? But I am honored to be on the show. Jake, Adam, thanks for having me on Mountain Stream. I'm stoked about it. There's so much to talk about tonight. So how you fellas doing?
I'm doing really good. Holding up with the lockdown kind of thing, the staying safe, away from other people, and doing what we can to get food safely in a safe way, and staying hunkered down at home and getting a lot of chores done that I normally wouldn't get done, and trying to keep my mental status above the tide. I don't want to sink down into what am I going to do next. So I've been coming up with lots of fun things to do with my hands.
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. And how are you doing, Jake?
About the same, you know, finding projects to keep myself busy. Miss Kate has a list of honeydews from here to Sedona, and you know, we have a couple tables filled with baby seedlings starting, so our garden is starting to come up real nice. Everything, the watermelon and one thing of peppers hasn't popped yet, but everything else is like going gangbusters.
Yeah, pretty sweet to hear. You know, I hear you guys doing good things around the house, and it's like if you just turn off the news and stay home and get some stuff done, be with your loved ones, you're doing some good stuff, living life. It's not so bad here, you know.
Good, well said. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And you know, we got good fresh air here. We go outside, get a little fresh air. I've been taking walks, just trying to do things that are kind of like in a good, healthy way. Normally different from my normal routine, which is just work, come home, do some stuff, have dinner, go to bed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we've, you know, we live over here in Chestertown near the Northway. We've got these cool snowmobile trails like right behind the house, right? Mm-hmm. So no snowmobile going on right now. So I can literally just like walk out the door, be on the snowmobile trails, and just like hike for 2-3 miles a day and not see a soul. And it's great.
Not see anybody. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Where I live, there's a small community here. So, you know, today was the first day because of the weather, I think, that me and Emily went out and walked and didn't have people wanting to talk to us. And I don't want to be rude to these people, but, you know, if they don't know what's going on by now, I don't know what kind of rock they're living under, but I don't want to be there with them. It's like, goodbye, hello, and goodbye. Yeah. I'm getting exercise here. Don't break my stride. I know I haven't seen you in 2 months, but guess what? It hasn't been long enough. Get out of my way.
Right.
Matthew Wilder. You know what's up.
But it's good. It's good. Things are good. So you and your family are obviously holding in there. You know, Todd, we've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time. Jake and I started this idea for this show back in the fall, and now we're picking it back up. And we talked about it a little bit last year with you, and there's been a couple things that you have been a part of, and maybe some new things that you have been a part of since the last time we talked. And first of all, I just want to start off with the basis of what you started off with, which is the East to West Hunting podcast. I believe that's what it was. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And the first thing I need to do is throw you some love on the intro to that, because you helped me out with the intro about 50 episodes in, and that just lit it right up. It was really good. I had a lot of compliments on that intro, and it's and the energy was there. It was good. And the message, and it just like set the podcast off. So I thank you for that, brother.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I started, a little bit of background. I mean, we all grew up together, but for anybody just watching this who doesn't know who I am, I'm an Adirondack native, just like you guys. Live in Chestertown, grew up in North Creek. My family's been here a long time. And, the outdoors, if you live in the Adirondacks, one of the best parts, there's two things that are great about living here, in my opinion. One is the outdoor opportunities, right? Because we live in this unique space in the East that's like the wildest place east of the Mississippi, 6 million acres. And I think the other thing that's really sets us apart are the people, like the community, our friends, like you guys, and just like the people through it. So like you develop this relationship with the land and this relationship with the people who live here. And I think it's unique for the East, and it's something that's always drawn me. And like, I moved away. I was gone for like 15 years working. And even when I was away, and I wasn't that far, I was like in Pennsylvania, but still coming up all the time, still wanted to be here. And so the outdoors have always just kind of resonated and played a part. And so I grew up with it. My family immersed me into hunting and fishing and a lot of non-consumptive stuff too. It wasn't just hunting and fishing. It's camping, it's bike riding, swimming, all that stuff. But today people don't necessarily come into it through their family. They don't have that immersion where it's just like, hey, I'm growing up in Igerna with my friends and we're out down on the river camping and having fun. Like they may live in some suburban area and they don't have that experience, and they may just want to connect. And it might be that they're 30 years old or 35 and they're just looking for community to be able to connect with in a safe space. And so that was the basis of the whole reason I started podcasting. It was to help people who want to start stuff that they've been dreaming about or thinking about for a long time, and then just give them the wheels and give them the encouragement and the push and the resources to do it, Yeah. Sure. So started East to West about 2 years ago. And, that just, it's kind of funny how stuff evolves, right, guys? Like this, what I'm talking about, but like you start out and you don't really know like where the trajectory is going to go with it, but you have these conversations and the conversations build on each other. And then you get another guest, and then the whole thing kind of takes a life of its own, and it just kind of like goes where it goes. And so, yeah, that whole podcast, it came out of a trip I did with my buddy to Colorado in 2016. And so, growing up in the Adirondacks, we love mountains. We love, the scenery and everything. I'd always wanted to go to Colorado and be in the backcountry and hunt elk and be up 11,000 feet. And, for 15, 20 years, I came up with excuses on why I couldn't, or why I just didn't know anybody that would, or how would you even do that? And I met my buddy. We were actually at this conservation thing in Missoula, Montana. And I never met the dude before. And he was from Alabama, and we just connected. And I'm like, hey, I want to do these things. And he's like, brother, I want to do these things too. And so we just kept talking. We became friends. And next thing you know, we're out hunting in Colorado, and we had a great time. We didn't see any elk, or we did, but like we didn't get close, but just an amazing trip. And then it's like, hey, I'm sure there's other people out there that just want to do the same kind of stuff. Yeah. And, and it kind of evolved to be like, it doesn't have to be elk hunting. It could just be getting outdoors, maybe hunting's not your gig, and that's cool. So maybe it's just like finding a lane to fish or camp or forage mushrooms or, whatever you want to do. So we're just trying to get people outdoors.
That's amazing. I mean, this might be a good thing for like photographers too. People that just want to get involved in some, taking some pictures of nature and some different places they've never been. Todd, just answer me real quick. I'm going to put this up here. Is this correct? This, you see this here? Is that what it is?
It is. Yeah, it is.
So if folks go to eastwesthunt.com, where's that going to take them if they go on there?
So that takes them to my website, Adam. So what that is that's a website. It's a WordPress website. And I post the blogs and the podcast episodes there. So they'll be able to find a whole bunch of resources and some interesting stuff, like everything from, Adirondack kind of stuff, like ice fishing or foraging, or just general conversations about Fort William Henry, to to everything else, to hunting, getting started with Western hunting, just trying to break things up and have some interesting conversations and like amplify the people that are in that community. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's great. It's, I was also thinking about some people that aren't necessarily in that community. Like, how are they going to become part of this community? Is there a way for them? I mean, are there other platforms that you're doing it? Like right now, I'm thinking there's probably other platforms where you have this podcast that maybe other people could find it, maybe stumble across it, or maybe through other related podcasts they could find you. Are you on other platforms?
Yeah. So, so the podcast gets RSS fed out to a whole bunch of different venues as far as like iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that kind of stuff. So if people are listening to their podcast there and they want to find it, but they don't want to go to the website, that's totally cool. They can listen wherever they listen. And as far as just like, I just recently started, we can talk about this now or after, but just recently started a partnership with Modern
Let's talk
Carnivore.
about this after.
Okay. So yeah. So for now with East West Hunt, they can just find us out there, wherever they listen to podcasts. And I would say that a lot of people, the people that, the conversations that we're having with, when you envision, if you're not somebody that's into like hunting or fishing, maybe you just didn't grow up with it, but you're kind of like, I'm kind of interested because I get the food connection, because like with all the stuff going down right now, it'd be pretty cool to have some, organic, healthy food that I know where it came from. Yeah. And maybe my personal dig is that I'd like to be responsible for it and know where it came from and know that it came, like it lived a good life too, not just like the food itself, but like how it lived. And so those are kinds of questions that like, those are heavy for people. If you didn't grow up in a hunting family like me, I mean, my uncle's like Henry Fraser from Igurna. You guys know Henry, right? Sure. I was immersed in this stuff. Yeah. But if you're not, then there's a mindfulness to all that about, should I hunt or not? Is it for me? And so I try to make the podcast kind of like, I don't want to say entry level, but thoughtful and mindful enough where people who aren't sure if it's for them to at least consider it. It's not so technical where it's like they're just getting bombarded with stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that answered my question. I was just wondering about, because you were talking about the people that are part of that group already, and these are people that might not necessarily be, but maybe your podcast could help them get there.
So I think that that's where the opportunity is, because as far as like outdoor podcasts and hunting and fishing podcasts, there's a lot of great content out there, and there's people that do it professionally. There's people that have TV shows. There's people that are professional writers. They work for brands, and they're out there doing it 300 days a year. And that's not me. Like, I think the message that I want to convey to people is, hey, we're just people that want to have these connections. We're average people. We like the outdoors. We're not doing it to make money or have this big, brand behind us. We're just really doing it to help each other and to be able to pass it forward. And so that's kind of the spirit of the podcast, guys, is like, just like letting people be where they are, like wherever they're coming into it is perfectly cool. And then just like hearing them on that and answering questions. And if they decide they want to continue to do it, that's great. If they're like, no, it's not for me, it's too heavy, that's cool too. At least they got exposed to it and they can make an informed decision.
That's awesome. Really cool. The thing I was just thinking about as you were talking about all this stuff is like, especially, in these times that we're living in right now, I haven't had my fishing license other than just to take my nieces and nephews fishing in quite so many years. And now it'd be like, to me, I was already thinking about this a couple weeks ago. I want to get my license again and go do some brook trout fishing. I know where some really good places are right around here. You can go and, you get some great protein on the table just by going right down the road here, walking right down the road here and wetting a line down there and traveling around and grabbing some worms from underneath some rocks. And I don't have to go anywhere to do any of it. I can do it all right here out of my front door. So
like right at your fingertips, like wild Adirondack brook trout, doesn't get any fresher. It's swimming there this morning, right? I mean,
exactly natives, and brookies. I mean, to me, some of the best fish are brookies. Not a lot to them, but they're fun to fish. I love just going in there without a pole or anything, Todd, and just having the line spooled up and just having everything kind of there to go, and you just throw it out there with like a little mini sinker on there and just bring them in like that. It's always been something I've always loved to do. So I think I have to get back into it. This is going to be something I want to do over the next. I said I was going to get my license again this week. That's what I told myself 2 days ago. So hopefully that happens, and I go out there and get some brook trout and cook them up, because it's been years and they're great. As you know, they're excellent.
Yeah, I'm so stoked for you. And when all this blows over, if there's ever an opportunity where we can fish together, I would absolutely love that. It'd be great.
Oh, yeah. I would love that too.
We used to fish every day in the summer, when we used to go to my grandmother's house. We're like 12, 13, 14, the kids in the neighborhood, get our fishing poles, run down to the Skinner Brook in Johnsburg, I think, So, we, every single day, that's what you did in the morning until you got bored and went and made a tree fort or something weird,
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
And those are the kinds of things, even though, like, my whole shtick there with that East to West podcast is like, I'm talking about going to Colorado elk hunting, but, I think the message is you don't have to do that. Like, you can find cool stuff right in your backyard. And in fact, that's probably even cooler to do that. Like, if you could think of all the great stuff, like you guys, like North Creek, Minerva, I live in Chestertown. Think about the opportunities that you can have within 40 minutes of where we all live. And it's endless, it's great. I mean,
a lot going on.
Yeah. I'm gonna start saying, what would Howie do now from now on, because
WWHG.
Yeah, you're all about the pay it forward. I love that. And you're helping people who, like you said, or maybe they're nervous or won't, too afraid to get off their butt, They see something like that, dude. It's so inspirational and it's infectious, and you can tell as soon as it leaves your mouth, like, boom, it's fire. It's fire.
I love it. What would Howie do? That's great.
For those of you who don't know, Howie is a nickname that we call Todd as a friend. I've known him as Howie my whole life.
So my best friends call me Howie. So it's an honor. Like, when everybody calls me Howie, like, I take that as a compliment, because I know we've been friends a long time. Yeah. And for people that don't know, that's my middle name. And so that's how that got started. Years ago, I think Tom Hammond and Jim Hammond and maybe Jim French from North Creek started calling me Howard Munson, like the catcher from the Yankees. This is like back in the 70s. And that's when Howie started, I think. It's like, I don't know, probably 1980 sometime.
That's funny. I kind of figured the middle name thing, but besides that, I didn't really know. I just always just heard other people calling you that, so that's what I called you.
I like it. It's cool.
How many East to West podcasts have you done, Todd? I'm just curious.
I think 105, Adam.
Wow.
Yeah.
105.
So, yeah. So amazing conversations, and each one is unique. And so, I mean, just being able to talk to 105 people and get perspectives on how they come into things and how they see things, it's really changed my perspective considerably about how I think about the outdoors. But yeah, so lots of conversations, lots of, just working through podcasting and figuring out the whole process behind it, the technical process, and how to get them out there and how to produce. And so, yeah, it's been crazy, but it's been good.
That's amazing. I mean, I've dove into several of the episodes that you have out there, and I always enjoy listening to them. But one thing I always think about is, like, are there any podcast episodes that you can remember that are some of your favorites, and why? What sets them apart from other shows?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's so many good ones. I'm gonna say one of my favorite. There's a couple that are my favorite, and this is personal, and this isn't like downplaying all the great guests that I've had. You know what I mean? So like each conversation that I have is intentional, and like I want to get people on there that I feel like resonate with the community, and like they inspire me, and they're doing great things, and to hear their perspective. But one of the funnest podcasts we had was frog gigging podcast I did with Tom and Dan and Carla Den 2 years ago. Early on, we called it the Frogcast, and it was up at Minerva Lake. And you guys have frog gigged with Tom.
Episode 20. Episode 20 Frogcast.
So that's probably my favorite, and I just, because I had so much fun with it, it was fun. And then like another one that I really liked was just, I had my dad on like ice fishing one day, and had his like power auger in the background cranking out the ice on Schroon Lake, and him telling stories, and like, so that was pretty cool too. So like I think it's the personal ones, and like being able to, is that what it was? Yeah.
47. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, those are the ones that mean a lot to me. That's for sure. Yep.
Look at that, Tom Hammond there, frogs. I'm just now getting into the chat. Sometimes
all right, Tommy.
Spend a little bit more time with the guests before I start delving into this. Jake, have you been seeing anybody in the chat? Looks like we got some cool people hanging out here. We have Brian McSturdy is on here.
Brian, hey Brian.
Brian McSturdy.
I was looking over the hit list for these the podcasts, going over all the East-West ones, and trying write down a couple different ones that are different, and I got 2 pages split up. I mean, everything, it's all over the place. It's so awesome. You really are covering every aspect, even into like hunting on a budget, and in the kitchen, you're outdoors, you're every kind of animal, fishing, whatever. It really is an awesome list and guest lineup you have. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Jake. And that was kind of an experiment, and it's something that I had in mind. And I thought, you know what? Yes, this is a hunting podcast, but people have broader interest than just hunting, right? And so to be able to like break things up and to be able to pull content together that can keep people interested in it. If you're talking about a tree stand every week after week after week, it's just like it's going to get kind of stale. But like if you're talking about Fort William Henry in the French and Indian Wars one week, and then you're talking about hunting on a budget, and then you're talking about the geology of the Great Lakes and the glacial flows, it was a total experiment. And like I really appreciate the crowd in the community like going with it, because like honestly, I didn't know sometimes, like when you start dropping that stuff, like, are people going to listen to this stuff or not? You know what I mean? It was just like, it's just like, I have this brainstorm that I think it could work, and I think people like variety, and here's how I'm going to position it. And fortunately, all the crowd, the community was like very positive and supportive of it. So I'm thankful.
Yeah. We're all kind of lucky in that way, that we do things that we enjoy and we get good response and a lot of support from people. And that means a lot. That means it keeps me going when you have people that, truly care about what you're doing, and, you can tell they're heartfelt with what they have to say, and it just makes it more fun to do. And it's like, I tell Jake, and other people, I don't need thousands and thousands of people watching what I'm doing, but like if people that are there watching really care about it and are there because they want to have fun with us and they get what we do, and they enjoy the humor and the light side of things that me and Jake bring to the table, and they have fun with us, that makes everything to me. It makes me just so grateful. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's all about, guys. And like just being able to resonate with your community, and like you guys are two of the funnest guys I know too. So like I just like being able to connect with people. It's a fun way to do it, and I'm so stoked to follow what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you have.
Dude, and you've got 2 years worth of work under your belt already. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, Adam.
No, I'm listening to you, my man.
Well, you've already gone over some, like, like the catalyst and things like that. But what's the spark? What keeps you going? Because you seem to have this endless amount of energy, and we need to know your secret.
Oh yeah, it's a good question. The spark is that I get inspired. Like people inspire me. Like when like being able to help people tell their stories well. Like here's what fires me up is that if you perceived hunting in media and you look on TV and you watch TV shows, there's only a handful of people and celebrities out there doing shit, right? And so they're out there doing their thing and they're really cool, but they only represent a small portion of the 12 million people out there that are doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they're amplifying it and they're like presenting it to the public like this is what we are as a community. But if you look at what drives this engine in terms of funding and who pays for the licenses and who's out there and how it impacts their lives, it's the kinds of people that I want to have on the podcast. It's Cindy Stites and it's Danielle Lanise and it's so many other people. It's Rob Saleheimer and, Tom Hammond and on and on. And it's like, I feel like the nature of our future depends on everybody out there, not just a small few select. So it fires me up when I think that there's an opportunity to have podcasting where I can line people up to tell their stories. I can line people up to tell their stories about how they were in an abusive relationship and how they were feeling crappy about their life and how things were bad. And then how they connected to the outdoors and how that connected to themselves and like how hunting changed that for them and the confidence that they felt. And that kind of stuff is powerful. Like it goes beyond horns on your wall. It goes beyond meat in the freezer. It's about the people. And so I feel that way. And I also feel like, hey, if it's not us, who's it going to be? Like, I think that we're at this point where it's like, we can make a difference. And like, I'm only one person. I live in Chestertown. I'm sitting in my back bedroom here. That's called my studio. But, what can I really do? I can do whatever I all I can do is my best. And I feel like that effort is worth it, and like, we can pass it on and you don't have to be some kind of celebrity to do it. You can take your nephew fishing. You can just go pick up some trash along the highway, like adopt the highway kind of stuff. Just be wherever you're at in your space and be yourself, be in your lane and connect to it however you can. That's what fires me up.
Awesome.
That's kind of like on the same lines as what we are, but you said it with a very fiery passion, and that's amazing. That keeps people coming. Gary Johnson has a question. I'm going to post it here. Let's not forget to answer this question. This is more of a BLB question than a East to West hunting podcast. Maybe or not. But how does BLB see Bigfoot as friend or foe? Now, I'm going to let Jake take this first.
Well, here's the thing. I've never had a fear. Maybe I should have, but before we started looking for evidence and looking for this elusive, hairy one, I didn't feel fear. Now, 4 years before, when I didn't know what was going on, I felt fear when something threw two big rocks in the water, next. I didn't know what that was, and I boogied down right at Minerva Stream there by Hewitt's. Yeah. So anyway, I was flat-foot, and I was scared then. But after, I don't know how to explain it. So friend or foe, I don't think I'm going to go up and shake hands with it. But, I'd love to get it on film.
Yeah. My answer to the question is about the same as yours, Jake, in that I don't know. A friend or foe, I think it's something to be wary of. but I couldn't say that it would be a friend or foe. I really just don't know. I think there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that this thing can be scary, and there's a lot of evidence out there that this thing can be intimidating, but won't necessarily hurt you. But you just don't know. There's so many different stories. You sit there and you do the research. You listen to all these encounter stories. You do the facts. You do the searching yourself and find out kind of the best you can. And what I've come up with is just don't know.
Go with your gut, Adam, right? Howard? Well,
I think that is totally legit. Those are good answers.
Howard, Todd, Mr. Waldron. I want to talk now, segue into what you're doing now on this newer show that I just kind of recently found out about. You're partnered up with some people over there at Modern Carnivore. Is that correct?
It's correct, and I'm stoked about it. So my friend Mark Norquist is the founder of Modern Carnivore. Now, Mark lives in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. So he lives outside of Minneapolis. And he started this platform several years ago. And the basis is a lot of the same things that I've been doing with East to West, but he's done it much more effectively and elegantly. Like, he's got this beautiful platform. He's had mentor workshops. He is the master at it. He is so great at building community and getting people who are kind of interested in the outdoors, and specifically in their connection to the food aspect of it. So that's like the carnivore part. And so like, he's been doing great things like deer butchering workshops and pheasant hunting seminars and webinars and stuff like this. So he's doing it for years. Him and I met at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous in Missoula in 2016 in Montana. And I just instantly liked the guy. The guy is like such a likable guy, and I trusted him. And so last year, we did this backyard venison barbecue in Brooklyn, New York. I mean, downtown Brooklyn, like Cobble Hill, like near Bed-Stuy. And we had I called him and I'm like, Mark, I think this is a cool opportunity. Would you be willing to come to New York City from Minneapolis and partner up with this thing? Because I think what you can bring to the table can resonate with people in the city. So we used the food as the gateway to have these conversations. What are your perceptions of all this stuff? You live in Brooklyn. What do you think about hunting, and what are the barriers, and how do you think about the ethics of it all? And it was amazing. And out of that, the dude says to me, we ought to start this podcast called Outdoor Feast, and you ought to help me with it and do it. And I just was right on. So we ended up, that's it. And we ended up launching that in February. So we worked on it for a while, and he supported me on a lot of stuff, and we came up, and the whole idea of it is just to kind of expand his community from Modcarn to New York and to the Northeast in general. So I'm just trying to help amplify what he's doing, because what he's doing is working, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. So I went out to Minneapolis in February and went to this thing called Pheasant Fest. And for people in New York that aren't familiar with pheasant hunting is a major upland pastime throughout most of the Midwest. And this is a hunting and fishing show, but there's 32,000 people here. It's amazing. It's in downtown Minneapolis at the convention center. 30,000 people.
Know it well.
Yeah. And so I went out there, we launched it. We did we traveled up to Duluth. We had some fun, and we're in full swing. He's got some other stuff going on. And so he has a podcast too. It's called Mod Carn. And so there's two podcasts on this channel now that kind of support each other. He's talking to people in the Midwest. I'm talking to people in the Northeast. And it's just it's great. It's great. So I feel it's a great opportunity for me that I didn't see coming. When I started the East to West Hunting Podcast, if you told me 2 years ago that in 2020, I'd be hooking up with Mark Norquist of Mod Carn, I'd just shake my head and say, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that oh, look, I'm so great or anything. I just mean wow, that's a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
Where it
So
takes
that's that's where it took me, and so I'm pretty stoked about it. And we're having fun conversations, and it's the same spirit of what we've been doing. So it's just getting people from New York and beyond on the podcast to tell their stories. And I feel like with storytelling, every one of us has a unique story, and every one of us has a lot to offer. And so like I get excited about that, like helping people tell those stories.
like
Because
episode 66.
I think so,
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what it's all about at Mod Carn and what I've been up to with that, and it's been fun.
So I have this right down here.
Yeah, you got it right.
Modcarn.com is where you go, and on that website, it's a website, and on there are links to different things like he's got his podcast on there, and then yours, which is yours is Outdoor Feast. Is that what yours is?
Yeah, Outdoor Feast, and that's like on the same. It's just like a blog post on that website, and it's on iTunes and Spotify and all that too.
Be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happened?
Adam is there he goes. Looking good, Adam.
Try to get rid of some of that red light.
Yep.
Hey
now. Let's see here. Where were we? So this Mod Carn thing, I went on there, I perused it. Awesome. Well put together. It's got very good visual quality to it. Easy to navigate. Very well done, professionally done. It's a nice layout, and you can just jump right on there and go right through and listen to all sorts of cool stuff. And the fun thing about it is, for me, is getting onto like your show, Outdoor Feast. You can just dive into any one of those episodes. You just get in there, and within just a couple minutes, you're already like it gets the wheels turning. You're already learning some things, and you're already getting excited about things just by the first 5 minutes of them. It seems like. So it's cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Like there's I guess it resonates like with my personality, but just like jump right in and get the pace going and get things started. And it's been fun. One of the funniest stories about going out to Minneapolis, we were up in Duluth, and I'm going to just make fun of myself a little bit. This is kind of funny, but so I was really excited. Mark and I were going to podcast with this woman up in Duluth who has a really cool Instagram account. It's like Outdoor Alley or something like that. She's a really cool person. And so we meet her at this brew pub, and she has a little toddler, right? But we meet, and like we're at the brew pub. I shake her hand. We're talking. And so like then she looks down, and like there's this little toddler coming across the room. And so like she talked to it, and I'm thinking this is her kid, So the dude behind her, I just presume is her husband, So like I reach out and I'm like, "Hey dude, nice to meet you. It's great to see you." And she looks at me and she's like, "Yeah, he's not my husband. That's not my kid."
I love it.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a beer.
Okay, that's cool. We have Lane Goodspeed wants to know. She's in the chat here, or he's in the chat. Guy or girl? I don't know.
Miss Lane, she's up north of us, about 50, 60 miles north.
Okay.
Hey, Lane.
I'm northern.
What does Howie think of Bigfoot? What do you think of Big? This is coming from Lane Goodspeed up north, Jake.
Oh yeah, north of us. Yeah.
What do I think of Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Like, it's the kind of stuff you can't discount. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen any. It's the kind of thing, like, when I think about things in the outdoors, I think about science and stuff like that. Like, okay, what do you see? But there's also just when the evidence and like the stories behind like the sightings and people seeing stuff, there's got to be something to all that. Like, have I ever seen tracks in the woods? No. Have I ever seen any evidence? I have not. However, like if you just like compile the bigger things around that, like with people seeing sightings and the personal experiences, and like from Vermont, like over in Chittenden to Whitehall to everywhere else, like Jake, you're talking about up at Minerva Stream. I'm not going to say that he doesn't exist. Like he's out there, you know? So that's what I think is like, when it comes to stuff like that, there's like stuff you see on the ground, and then there's stuff that everybody else sees. And if enough people sees it, then you got to kind of account for that and say, yeah, there's something definitely going on with that. But I respect it, you know, like totally. It's like you guys, like, I don't know, like I'm not a friend or foe, but like, I just like respect it. And I have this like incredible curiosity, like, wow, like what would it really be like to actually have an encounter? And like, what would that life be like? And just like the natural part of it is fascinating to me. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah. That's what you just said is a lot of what I think about. Although me and Jake have had a lot of experiences with this type of stuff, we've never had direct sighting. You know, I've never seen one, but we have come across footprints. We've come across structures. We've heard them. I've smelled one. Jake's heard them. And a lot, not just a little bit, but a lot. And the more you go out and you look for these things that intentionally, you know, the more they're there in front of you. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And you know, who are we to say that, you know, the thing is real. But if I had a sighting, just think about how that would change your life. Would it be a good thing? Would it be a bad thing? I don't know.
And what about the interviews that we've had? Some are anonymous that we can't release, but you know, sightings in Igurna,
eyewitnesses,
you know, like
and there's
Minerva.
And there's other things too, like, okay, I'll even go with black bears. Okay, for instance, like, so black bears are all over the Adirondacks, right? I spend a lot of time in the woods in the Adirondacks. And, you know, I'm in my mid 40s and I've spent the better part of 40 falls in the Adirondacks. How many black bears have I seen in the Adirondacks in those years? In the woods? Like, just, I'm not talking about like going to the dump when we were kids looking at black bears. I'm talking about like being in the woods. And the answer is not that many. I mean, like, I don't think I've seen 10 black bears my whole life. Yeah. And if you have something like that, there's 600 moose around the Adirondacks. Look how elusive those things are. You know how many moose I've seen in the Adirondacks? One. Me too. In 40 years. And so if there's 600 of those things roaming around, and I've only seen one in 40 years, what's to say that other things aren't out there? You know, there's just the probability of a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, good way to put it. Speaking of things like that are elusive, I meant to get this picture off from Facebook from a friend of ours today, but kind of forgot. What's your take on mountain lions in the Adirondacks? There's a lot of talk about it.
Oh, so here's my take on it. I don't think there's any overarching conspiracy by the state of New York to put mountain lions in the Adirondacks to like eradicate deer, to eliminate hunting. I just don't see that happening. I do think that mountain lions are like transient enough and they roam enough where, yeah, they definitely come through from time to time. And if somebody told me that they saw a mountain lion in the Adirondacks, I would not question that, you know? And so it's the kind of thing that they're big animals. They range. I mean, there's been stories of them coming down from Canada and coming from the Midwest and going to Connecticut. So do they pass through? I think so. I mean, I'd be surprised.
What's the range?
Yeah.
Is it like a 400-mile range or something crazy, or 200? Do you know? Is it like?
I don't really know, but like I'm like there's always those rangy critters that will just go and just keep going, and like you hear stories about, you know, animals that started up someplace in Ontario and ended up in some suburban neighborhood in Connecticut. So I think it depends on the individual. I don't think the population range is that big. And I don't think that there's like a breeding population here. So let me just qualify that. Like, I think if there was, you'd see more. But like, I guess what I'm saying is like, it totally wouldn't surprise me. Like when people see them, that they could just be like passing through on their way, doing their thing. Yeah. You know, no surprise.
The track I saw was from Burns Road. Howie, you know where that is. And this was just a couple days ago. And the track, to me, from what I've researched over the last year in mountain lion footprints and tracks, there's been sightings up around in North River up around the Garnet Hill area over the last year. More than one, several. And I actually saw what I think was one. I know it was one 3 years ago in on the way between North River and Indian Lake.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw it trot along one of those side roads that you look down as you're driving up to Indian Lake. It just looked just like a big old house cat, just boop, 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 across the road. Had a long, big, swooping tail, and it was like
that's not a bobcat, No,
it was not a bobcat. It was a mother that had recently given birth to what I could tell. It's the udder or whatever, the teats on the thing, whatever. How after a house cat gives birth, they'll be all saggy there after they have been milking the kids for quite a while. They get all tugged down and stuff. It was just like that. It was swinging back and forth like that, and it was boop, 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 across the road. I'm like, that was a mother. That was a young mother mountain lion that has some kids with her somewhere.
Dang, that is pretty cool. Like, just the thought, like you may never, it's so rare. Like,
it's what I saw, it's plain. It was in the middle of the daytime. And plain as day, I saw it right there. I just kept driving. I didn't stop or anything. I just kept driving. I'm like, that was
so. Like the weirdest thing I've ever seen is, so Tommy Hammond can verify this. We were with our friends, Greg and Emily Hammond, fishing for catfish at Lake Champlain, like south of Ticonderoga. Like, if you go down Route 22 and like there's the railroad tracks, and this is like 20 years ago. And so we're like sitting in our lawn chairs and we're fishing from shore, like for catfish, bullheads. And like, Tom and I are looking out in the lake at the same time, and something huge, like 300 yards out, porpoises and comes up like a whale and goes down. And like, if he didn't see it, I'd have thought like I was just seeing things, right? But like we looked at each other and we're like, holy smokes, did you just see that? And we both saw it. And Greg and Emily did not see it, and they thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like if it was like a lake sturgeon or I don't know, but it was big. It was big.
Well, the sturgeons in that lake get huge. They get huge, but they only get so big, and then all the other things in what Tom says here. Yep. I saw it. And Champ. Do you remember when Champ was like blowing up when I was probably 6, 7 years old? Champ, there was a lot of sightings in one of the summers. It was one of those summers. I don't know what one was it. Early 80s. There was just a lot of people seeing stuff out in that lake, and I don't doubt it at all. I mean,
we saw it. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it was big and it was there, and it was far enough out where it wasn't, a lake trout or something like that. It was hundreds of yards out.
Hundreds of yards out, and it was something that you saw porpoising that was huge. Large, probably bigger than the biggest sturgeon in that lake.
Yeah,
they only get so big.
And like I've traveled. We have family in Hawaii, so like I've been to Hawaii, and like where you can like watch the whales like a half mile out. And you know how big they are, and they like come up and their tail goes like this and they flop down and splash. And I mean, it wasn't as big as a whale, but it was like in between. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Howie, I was wondering, you've been doing this podcast thing for a while. You got your own one separate East to West. You got the other one there with Mod Carn. How do you go about finding your guests? I mean, they can't just come to you, right? You go out. How do you find these people?
Do they?
It's a good question, and some of it, I'd say 80% of it is just like social media, like Facebook and Instagram connections. And it's just like, I kind of like what I do is like, because I've kind of been involved with backcountry hunters and anglers, and I've been out west a few times. It's like you kind of get to know who the community is. And then like you kind of think like, okay, here's some folks that I think would be interesting to talk to. Yeah. And so they've been really gracious about it. I can say like they have, like, most of the people that I have reached out to, like, I'm just a guy from Chestertown, and most of the people that I've reached out to and said, hey, would you be on this podcast? And here's what they're like so supportive of it. And most people would say, yeah. And there's been some schedule conflicts where some people haven't done it. But like for the most part, like people just will support you beyond belief. And so like, that's where like anytime anybody calls me up and they've got like an outdoor podcast and they're like, hey, would you be willing to be on here and talk to us? I'm like, always like, I'll be glad to do that because people have treated me so well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we go about that in similar ways. You know, we try to come up with, we have only done a couple. You're number 5 here on this show. But we have like a dream list, and then some other people, you know, we've reached out to and they want to be on the show too. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing. People that are in the same vein, same mental kind of thought process as you already, and say, hey, I'm doing this. Would you mind coming on? Some people are like, absolutely. Some people are like, I'm too shy for that, or I don't have the time, or they're always very nice about it.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? You mentioned foraging earlier, and that piqued my interest because me and my girl here we bore holes in old logs, and we have a mushroom farm in our backyard, and
that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, where we have like shiitakes and lion's mane, stuff like that. But do you do any foraging yourself for like some of the Adirondack edibles, some of the fancier mushrooms?
Episode 29.
Yes. So like I consider myself a novice with mushrooms. Like the mushrooms that I feel comfortable eating are these black chanterelles. They're called like black trumpets, and they grow in like these evergreen hemlock and oak forests. Okay. And so like they're the only ones that look like that. They look like chanterelles, but they're black. And so they're very easy to identify. And so I will eat those.
Gotcha.
As far as other mushrooms, I don't have the confidence, but like what I have been doing is some weird stuff. Like, you know, when you start going down that rabbit hole of what you can eat, it's fascinating. So like we eat like dandelion salads, like with the greens, you know, and the little bulbs before they come out. And everybody has dandelions on their lawn. And so as long as you're not spraying them, they're okay to eat. I've eaten basswood leaves. Basswood is like a hardwood with the really big heart-shaped leaf. And so those are pretty good. Like you can eat those when they first come out as salads. I've eaten, you can eat like, there's these invasives called like Japanese knotweed, which is all that crap that grows out behind the barnyard. You can make like a rhubarb pie with that stuff. And I've even taken like spruce buds, like spruce trees, and like when they're first popping out, the green, it's like really good. And like you can take the nips, the ends of that stuff, and put it in your salad. And I'm seeing Mike. I want to give a shout out to Mike Kirkpatrick here. Free food is awesome. I think so too. I think it's fun. And I think it's like one of those things where it's just like foraging opens up a whole different level of things. You don't have to hunt. You don't have to fish. You can do it in your backyard. It's great. So what my advice would be is like one thing at a time. Pick something you're comfortable with, like get to know it, and then build up your inventory and your experience just like anything else. Start out with dandelions, start out with basswood leaves. I don't, you know, whatever you dig. You know what I mean?
Sound advice. I really like that a lot. That's a really good way to do it. I mean, there's a lot out there that you can't go wrong with. You're going to eat it. You're not going to die. You're not going to start losing your mind. Todd, what the hell does locavore mean? I keep hearing this on your shows. Locavore. What is that all about?
So like in my mind, I mean, everybody has an idea of maybe what it means. Like what I consider it to mean is like that it's somebody that's conscientious about sourcing some of their food locally, like the local, and then the vor, like herbivore, carnivore, omnivore. So like that's how I see it. And so I don't think you have to be like, my advice for people, guys, is like, look, it's very unlikely that you can source every single piece of food from like the land that you farm or the deer that you harvest. That's probably not going to happen because like modern diets aren't quite like that. But anything you can do wherever you are, wherever you start, if it's going to the farmers market once a week and just supporting the farmers in Washington County, you know, it's going up to Crown Point, up to Gunson's and getting some apples. All of that applies. So don't be intimidated by the word locavore, because like what I hear is like people think of locavores meaning like, oh, these pricey $20 hamburgers, you know what I mean? Grass-fed beef. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, it can just be whatever you find in your neighborhood, in your crib, and just like however much of it seems right for you.
That's awesome. So what you're saying is that deer are locavores.
Oh yeah, deer are definitely locavores.
What's the new there's some new kind of farm to table fresh ends, it's like a delivery, kind of like a food pantry thing, but they what's it called, Adam? It's out of Newcomb, isn't it?
Hello Fresh.
Yeah.
No, though that's Adirondack Purveyors.
Yeah,
Okay.
Adirondack Purveyors, and they'll give you like a little sampling, you know, don't talk bad about her yet basket. Sort of,
Yeah.
you know, here's yeah.
And
What
that's
does,
the
what
thing,
does
like-
CSA mean, Todd? What does CSA mean? Because I hear that on your channel
Oh
too.
yeah.
What is
So-
that all about?
So, you know what? So it's helping. It's working with a local farm. So like the initials are community supported agriculture, and so CSA, community supported ag. And so what it's basically doing is like it's going down to, I love this farm, Washington County, and it's in the dudes growing, and the man and the woman are growing, you know, lettuce, beets, whatever they're growing, potatoes, and it's working up a grocery list with them that says that we'll buy a box from you every 2 weeks or 1 week or 1 month or whatever. You know what I mean? So like it's like totally just like finding what the benefit is that gives those farmers, that woman or that man, it gives them some security because they know that they're going to customer base, you see. So it's not like if they go to the farmer's market, they think they're going to sell the stuff, but they don't know. And if they go through a CSA, they've already got folks lined up like us that have already given them a contract and said, we're supporting you through the summer. You know what I mean? So it's
Sure.
the kind of thing, like it's a commitment. You have to work through it because it's like, you have to kind of know like what that particular farm has to offer and like, is this going to work for our family with what they can do and can we consume it all? But I think it's an amazing opportunity to work with local folks.
That's awesome. I think there is one around here now that you're talking about the dynamics of it and what it is.
Frank Katie bar the door here.
What? How does Mike know about that?
I don't know.
How does Mike know about that?
Katie bar the door. Jake, don't you have something fun for us, Jake? Don't you have something fun for us?
Yeah.
What?
It's part of Mountain Stream, right, Jake?
What?
What's it called, Jake?
Are you serious?
It's dead serious, Jake.
You know,
Put on some chapstick.
This is the first time. This is the first time we're ever going to do this.
Yeah,
Mr.
very first
Waldron.
time.
Now, this is it's a fun new little segment to the Mountain Stream. We're going to call the Rapids. Okay. Now we're going to shoot you down this gauntlet of questions called the Rapids. Okay. And what we're going to do, we're going to compile a list ourselves of different guests throughout the mountain streams. We're going to put them through their own set of rapids, and we're going to put a little time on there, and we're going to see how fast, kind of like the Family Feud, 100 people survey, top 5 answers on the board, kind of something like that. We're just going to shoot 10 questions down, and they're, you know, geez Louise.
We're going to try to do this as quick as possible.
So
Should I do
we're going to do like rapid fire questions and then I'm like on the hot seat or something, or is that how it is?
Yeah, kind of like one of those. So I tried to keep it like a one or two word answer. And remember, Adam, you remember those? We kind of went over one of those questions earlier. Should I still ask it?
Ask it unless you have a substitute for it.
Oh
Okay.
no, okay, all right. Oh, geez, Louise. Okay,
Which you might have. But before you get going, just let me know when you guys are both ready. I'll go ready, set, go. And when I say go is when I'm going to hit the starter here. And
Okay.
We're going to see how long it takes you to answer all 10 of these questions.
I'm feeling the pressure here, but
You're
I'll try.
supposed to.
man.
Howie,
Okay.
you are supposed to, my man. You are supposed to feel you're under pressure here. Okay, you're in the hot seat.
I'm gonna have to
Rapid fire. During the Mountain Stream Show. Now you're going through the Narrows. You're going through the rapids. Jake
Okay.
came up with this.
I'm gonna like put my life jacket on and hang on here, but I'm gonna try.
Oh man, now. Okay. All right. So
Okay.
I want to make sure I take a couple of these questions out. All right. Okay. I guess I crossed it out. All right.
You got 10 questions ready, Jake?
Okay. All right. I think we're gonna go with these questions here out of the.
Do you have 10 questions ready, Jake?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do have 10 questions ready, and it's a $64,000 pyramid. I'm right here for you, Howie.
Howie, are you ready?
I am ready.
Jake, are you ready?
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay. Ready, set, go.
What is your spirit animal?
Fox.
What is the name of Todd Waldron's debut album?
Oh boy, Foreigner Live.
What? Garden gnomes or pink flamingos?
Garden gnomes.
Do you buy a different brand of beer on paydays versus 3 days before payday?
Hell yeah, I do.
Last gift that you gave someone?
Oh, flowers.
Over the roll or under the roll?
Over the roll, definitely.
Did you or did you not Tiger King?
I did not, but I did vicariously on Facebook.
Is Sasquatch real?
Yes,
Do you love tacos?
I do.
What's with all the dogman encounters?
Damned if I know.
Okay, that's it, Adam. You got to stop it right there. What do we got?
58:36. Jake,
Dude, that's record-breaking time. You did it in under a minute, Adam.
that's under a minute. Jake, Howie did really good. You stumbled him there a couple times. He was a little bit hesitant there a couple times, which is good. That's good question answering. I'm going to write this down right here. So far, the first guest on our show has 58. 36.
I had to think about that debut album. I mean, that's stuff that you really have to think through that. You know, like you can't just. That's not a taco question. Like that's
yeah, I know, but let me do a bonus question because one of the questions I had to cross out, I'm dying to know after the fact. So this is like a little bonus. Okay.
What's the bonus?
Okay. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Oh, neither. Like, can you if there's a neither answer?
I'd fight the duck-sized horses. They'd be so cute.
I know. Neither is my answer, but if it had to be one or the other, it would be just the one and not the 100.
Jake, I'd be kicking those little horses all over the place, man.
I would be kicking 100 little duck-sized horses.
I'd be kicking those horses, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Listen, guys, okay, gals and guys, you guys. I don't kill mosquitoes. I blow them off. I'm trying to, I don't like to step on anthills. So it would really bother me to have to kill 100 duck-sized horses, but one horse-sized duck could eat me in one bite. You know what I mean? That bill, it would probably take my head off. So I'm pretty sure I could kick those little horses away from me fast enough, but that big duck, it might get me.
So you're thinking opposite of me. Like, I'm just thinking getting it over with, but like...
you're Conan the Barbarian. You're going to jump on the back of the thing and slit its throat and drink its blood and rip the heart out and go, ah!
Yeah. I mean, haven't you ever fantasized being like Luke Skywalker and climbing into that thing? Like, you remember that movie, where he's on that really cold tundra and then, like, he climbs in there and survives the night? I mean, I'm just saying.
Han Solo throws him in there.
Yeah.
You know what I was gonna do earlier? I was done with a box of Triscuits, and I was getting ready to throw the box out, but then I just didn't throw the box out. It was weird. You ever find yourself doing that, Todd?
Oh yeah, so like that's probably a loaded question from my wife, but like
No, Jake's got the.
I've got Triscuit boxes like all over the place. Like I am a Triscuit fanatic. Like I like them, and I'll eat them, and then like I'll just keep them around because I like the box so much.
Yeah. Do you like which do you like more, horseradish or Triscuits boxes?
Oh, I'd go with horseradish. You know, it'd be a hard one, but I'd go with horseradish. Yeah.
Okay.
I got a blueberry horseradish spread.
Sounds amazing.
Ooh, that sounds really.
I think
good.
it'd be good on Triscuits.
Will you or will you not be going to bed tonight at 9:18?
I will not, you know.
You will not.
918 is like my secret sauce. I'm just going to tell you that. And like it worked for me for a long time. And you just stick. I'm like my dad, you know, like my dad is the kind of person that eats lunch every day at 12 o'clock. And 918 is my dig.
Yeah, I like that.
What? It's in your gene.
Those were a little bit. There's a little bit of something we might have gotten from somebody you may know. I'm not so sure, but
I love it. I mean, that just says that like there's an inside scoop to Howard, and like it's not all podcasting and hunting. You know, there's
what about
the other side.
Who do we have here?
So do you know where that's taken, guys? Like, can you guess?
Is that on the backside of Jim McGee's place there?
I'll give you a hint. The dude
Minerva Beach.
No, so see the house like up in the background, like the roof line and the brown wall, and like the yellow pickup.
Is that
you know whose
John
place that is? That is that house up there was Rob Wings.
That's what I said. If anybody can return back to what I said, watch this again, and you will hear me say, "Is that Wings?"
Oh, I'm sorry. You got it for the win. Adam gets the win. Yes,
that's in North Creek.
That is on. So, if for people looking there, that's like the street behind it is Osborne Street. That's Glenn Wings' house up behind my grandfather. And for anybody that knows North Creek, across from what we used to call the bowling alley at the firehouse, the white house with the red roof. That's where it is. That's where my grandparents lived. That's where Tommy Hammond and I spent endless amounts of time dunking basketballs on slippery ice on an 8-foot basket.
What?
That's awesome. What's going on in this picture, Todd? Is that venison thing you were talking about?
Yeah, so that's the one in Brooklyn. So can you imagine just going to Brooklyn and bring 25 people together and being like, hey, we're going to cook up some deer meat. And what do you think about it? It was amazing. Yeah, it was great. Look at these people. Look at their expression. They're eating. They're happy. They're talking. Does anybody look like they're having a bad time? No, they're all having a good time.
I want to be there. That's the first time when I first saw that picture for the first time. The only thing I thought was, I want to be there. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and kudos to my friends. Yeah, so that's some pronghorn meat right there. That's
what's the red stuff?
What?
Oh, it's like I can't think of the name of the barbecue sauce, but it's like a barbecue sauce that you can get down at Price Chopper in Warrensburg. It's like a good one, reasonable, but not like crazy high end. Maybe Dinosaur. I think it's Dinosaur barbecue.
Dinosaur, yeah, that's good stuff. You're right about
But here's what I did with that. That pronghorn came from Wyoming, and it was public land, free range, like open country, and we harvested some pronghorn. And I slow cooked that in the crock pot, pulled it out like pulled pork, and then put the Dinosaur barbecue on it. It was good.
It looks amazing. Talk to us about what's going on right here.
That is in New York City after that event that we had. And believe it or not, if I told you guys that there was a rod and gun club in Brooklyn where people have been going and shooting bows and arrows and there's a pistol range, would you believe that? It's true. There it is. Metropolitan Rod and Gun Club.
We got this one here. I like this. Field to fork. That is cool. Field to fork. That seems like a locavore type of a statement there. What's going on with this? Where were you doing this?
Totally. I was behind the person taking the picture. And what's great about this is all these individuals in this picture are adults that decided to start hunting last fall. And so what we did is each one of us, like I was what's called a mentor, and I was mentoring the guy second from the left in the black jacket and the tan pants. Great person, had so much fun with him in the woods this year, first time deer hunting. And so what we're doing is we're taking these people who are adults that want to get started. We're pairing them up with people like myself, getting them a hunting license, going through shooting classes and ethics and safety, and then going out and trying to hunt deer with them. And out of the 10 people, 6 of them harvested their first deer, and they had a big wild food feast after. It was amazing.
That's great. Todd, do you feel like more people today are becoming hunters in their adult years versus, years prior?
I totally do. Like I could talk for another hour on this, Adam, but yes. And so what's happening is it's in the people that are exploring it, it's more diverse than people like me. I was immersed in it. I was with my grandfather. That picture you saw of us holding that fish up by Glenn Wing's house, that was me. That's not everybody today. So like there's a huge amount of people. Women are a big part of people who want to get into hunting right now as adults. And so it's extremely important that people can provide community and mentorship programs to help them get started, because they didn't get into it with their dads or grandfathers like me, and they're an important part of the future. Okay. I'm in my mid 40s. And so, it's something that we need to help people get involved. And Lane is saying here, they offer fly casting lessons on the patio at the New York Library in New York City. So cool. Totally agree. It's amazing. And DEC has some bow programs, Lane, too, called Becoming an Outdoors Woman, if you're interested. My friend Katrina Talbot at DEC runs it, Mandy Bailey, and everything from, it's not just hunting and fishing, but it's just any outdoor skills that women want to do within a women's kind of group to be able to fill a community. So, that might have been long-winded, but people are interested. It's usually a food aspect. And so it's like being able to speak the language and help them along with that process.
That's awesome. Hey, we're getting a little short on time. The first question I had was for Jake. Jake, do you have any other questions for this young man that is in his mid 40s? I've heard him say that twice now, and it makes me feel old. Being that I'm in my 50s and all, it's kind of like,
you know what this is?
I still feel like I'm in my.
No. Do you recognize this?
Oh, it looks like Data from Star Trek. Is it Brent Spinner?
Oh yeah.
Data.
Yeah,
Data.
cool.
Jesus. Hey, Todd, you are you walk timber, right? You're out in the woods. You do that for your job.
Yeah.
I was thinking about you doing that, and I was thinking about you being in the woods since you were a child. And I just got to wondering, since we are on our channel, which is about Bigfoot and some other things as well, but primarily Bigfoot. What's the scariest thing that you can remember? If something off the tip of your tongue, top of your head, top of the dome comes to mind, you're out there in the woods. I know there's got to be something, and it doesn't have to do with something you don't understand. You could have seen something that charged you or something.
So
I don't know.
There's a couple of things. I mean, if you spend that much time in the woods, stuff happens. And the scariest thing I ever had was actually with Tom Hammond. And I wasn't working, we were fishing, and our compass that we had didn't work, and we thought it was going to work. And we got ourselves lost going up in Newcomb. And if we went the wrong way, it was a cloudy day, you couldn't see the sun. We're in spruce that's like thick, like you can't see from here to the wall. And it's like, how in the world are we going to get out? And otherwise, it's like, if we go the wrong way, it's probably 10 miles up to Newcomb. And that scared the hell out of me. And like, I've had that situation. I've had situations like where I've been by myself and got turned around. It's usually that kind of stuff. It's just like that feeling of like, holy smokes, I might actually be lost, That's pretty weird feeling. Even if you've been in the woods a long time.
been there. It's not a good feeling. I'm not good with that type of stuff. Jake, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I can't say countless times I've been lost,
More
but
than once. More than once.
yeah, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
And more than once had a search party called out on me from my frantic mother.
I've never had a search
And,
party, but
like that adrenaline, like you read about people, like when they find people, like there's like this tipping point when it's search and recovery, you know, and they're not that far from the trail, but they start doing some weird stuff. Like when your body tells you you're lost and you lose that rationality, you just don't have any sense. You can just like you're running on adrenaline and emotion, and like you just don't make good decisions. And
bad.
The best advice I could give people is redundancy. Is just like have a couple forms of ways of getting out, like a compass and a GPS or a phone.
That's to prevent it. But let's say once you're there. I mean, if the last episode of season 2 that me and Jake put out just recently, that was all real footage. I mean, there's a lot of swearing and stuff, but for good reason. We were lost, and it doesn't show how long we were lost out there for, but we were lost for hours.
Yeah,
hours at night. No clue on how we're getting back, and we had a compass, and it was doing basics for us. We knew where basically. We didn't have a map or anything to make it work correctly, but we knew basically where we were going to be going. And then I tripped and fell in the middle of this just briars. I mean, bad news. Lost the compass, bud.
Wow.
Scary.
Yeah. That reminds me of, can I tell one more story? Like the time it scared the hell out of me.
Oh, absolutely.
I was in Vermont. This is a work story. And I was looking at a piece of land, and there was snow on the ground. So you're wearing snowshoes. Okay. And so it's probably mid-February, and I'm looking at this property that's probably 3 miles from the nearest town road. It's like one of those remote pieces. Nobody else is up there. And so I walk into this place on this old like woodlot road, and there's like this old cut, like harvest that was recent. And so what happened is I'm walking along out through that, and can you imagine like if the snow is fresh and it's like on top of everything, there could be holes like in the tops of trees where there was logging. You know what I'm saying? And like, so I'm walking along, and all of a sudden, like my feet fall right out from under me, and I go like this, and I'm like stuck up to here in this treetop, and there's nothing to push me out of that. And like my snowshoes are stuck, and I'm like 3 miles from anybody. And like it freaked me out. It took me probably 35 minutes to get my head and actually like dig myself out of there, like to get my snowshoes off my feet, and then like use those to kind of like get up. But I was like scared shitless with that, because like nobody was going to find me, and I could have froze to death up there. And that would have been like a ridiculous way to go. But it's just,
I have a quick story that's similar but different, and it's strange. It was on snowshoes. I was out over on the ledges on Durkin Road across from Gore Mountain, and snowshoeing down this big ledge, and it was spring. There was a lot of snow, but it was soft, and it was sunny, and it was wet. It was heavy, but it was fresh kind of thing. It was like from the day before. I have ski poles on. I'm making some turns and navigating down this big rock side, and all of a sudden the shelf breaks off, and I go,
oh my gosh.
And it wasn't huge. It was probably 150 feet, and it came down with it, boom, and it got pinned down at the bottom of that thing against some trees, and the snow all came on top of me. Luckily, my head was above, and I had plenty of air, but everything from about my waist down was completely cemented in this snow that quick. And
before you knew what happened.
Before I could even do anything. And so I'm sitting there stuck. And at first time I'm sitting like, oh, that was fun. It was scary, but that was fun. I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like gathering my thoughts. And then I start realizing the predicament that I'm in, and I can't. It's like I'm stuck. And then I was with one other person, but they were up on the ridge. I might have been with more than one person, but the only person that came to my rescue, I think I was with one person, was my friend John, who was up on the ridge. And I was yelling to him, yelling to him, yelling to him, yelling to him. Finally, he came down and took his snowshoes off and used the tail end of his snowshoes as a shovel to dig me out. I mean, I could only pick at so much of the snow with my hand, and then I had to take my glove off, and I was doing it with my bare hand because the stuff was it was cemented in. It was nuts.
That's pretty crazy, dude. I mean,
yeah,
like, you're pinned in there.
Pinned right up in between like two trees. And like if it would have been just a little bit different, my oxygen could have got cut off and I would have been done. I mean, it could have easily gone that way. I mean, I could have fell and landed head first. I would have been done. Nobody would have heard me yell. No, you know.
It's crazy stuff, and it can happen just like that, you know.
Yeah.
So falling through the ice, or something like that in the winter.
Totally.
Anyone? Yeah. Anyone? Yeah.
I've been through once, and it scared me. Like, yeah. When I was a kid, and that was just like one leg, but it was like what happened is it was late March, and you know how people will fish, and like picture going ice fishing and drilling a hole, right? And then like having it like freeze over this much overnight, and then getting like this much snow over it, and then like walking along, not being able to see what's happened, and that hole expanded, and like I was a kid, and I just like boom, feet down into the ice, like legs in the water. Like I didn't go under, but like I'll never forget that feeling. That was the craziest feeling in the world.
I don't like open water. Ice scares me. It's got to be real. It's got to be no doubt about it for me to have any kind of comfortability on that stuff, you know.
Yeah, 8 inches is good for me. Like anything below that, I'm not so cool about at all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, you know, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's everything I could have possibly dreamt it would be. Jeremy, what the hell do you think, bud? What?
Hey, man, thanks so much.
Are you happy, Jake?
Thanks so much for coming on here, man. It was awesome. You know, I can't wait to hook up again.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for it. I'm stoked to hang out with you guys, lifelong friends, and to be able to be on the show. It's great, and like interact with the viewers. And so just keep up the great work. And I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to just talk about what I've been up to and everything. It's been a great time.
Giggers and shangers for life, bro.
Yeah, giggers and shangers. We really appreciate you coming on. If anybody out there is watching or wants to have anything cool to do besides looking into the cryptid world and want to get some cool info and listen to some great conversation, the East to West Hunting podcast is a really good way to do that. It's fun. You can find it right here, eastwesthunt.com. And the new, how new is the Outdoor Feast podcast? How long has that been going on?
Only 6 episodes. It's new.
6 episodes. So you said end of February?
Yeah, Mod Carn's been around for several years. Yeah, Mark has been around for several years.
So there's good stuff.
But the Outdoor Feast podcast, we just cranked that baby up, and so I appreciate anybody checking it out. It's fun.
And then anybody else that might be interested in giving us a shout, I know we have Frank. Frank's recently given us a email to hear to maybe wants us on his show, and we're going to do it, Jake. We're all about that. We're going to be on there. We're a little delayed with what we do. You guys got to know the BLB. We march to the beat of our own drum, so to speak.
Yeah. But we're on island time. We're on island time up here, Adam. I know, Frank. Frank, you're on our radar. We ain't forgot about you, but
totally. And if Quatnam's watching, if Kevin Quatnam's watching, he's on our radar too. We haven't forgotten about him at all. Can't wait to get back on Stone Creek Files with you guys. Always love getting on your show. You guys are just the best. Love you. I just want to say quick and ending here. Everybody out there, stay safe, do the right thing, make the most of it. Find ways to be creative and stay healthy and be thankful for what you got. That's about all I have to say in that, Jake.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Well, Todd, thanks again for coming on. Next guest, Next mountain stream will be none other than the great Tom Hammond. He's going to be on our show as our live guest. Can't wait to have that happen. Hopefully we can get a regular schedule with these things. We were doing 6:30s during the summer months, which that's starting. It's going to be happening here pretty soon. So 6:30s on Sundays is when we were going to have our little time slot there. For
Right after
anywhere
supper.
between an hour and 2 hours long with these things. I mean, we're just kind of going with the flow, seeing what's going on. So look for it next time. Todd, thank you so much. We'll be checking out more of your content, and let's get out there and do some fishing, bud.
Yeah, it sounds great, Adam, Jake. Yeah, thanks so much for doing this. It's so much fun, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on. So,
Yep.
guys, thanks to everybody. Have a great night.